need to get better. I've been waiting a long time for this. This can be the start of everything. Oh. On this day, literally a few minutes after I did this particular workout, or at least an attempt at a workout, I ended up getting a phone call back from one of the virtual doctors, who then advised that I should just go straight to the emergency, suspecting DVT. DVT is deep vein thrombosis. As you can see, the pain was pretty intense. I wasn't able to do a whole lot. So I was crying out of frustration, crying because the pain was so great, and crying because I was just generally angry that this thing just came on, seemingly, and I didn't know what it was, and therefore I couldn't prepare. One of my biggest issues when it comes to dealing with my health is the fact that I don't deal with my health. I spent the last few years worrying about getting to work on time, getting to school on time, being there for other people, being there for XYZ, and never really stopping to take time for myself. Even though I'm getting super frustrated with this particular workout, it's pretty obvious that I should have just been resting and not pushing myself, not pressuring myself to try and continue on as if whatever was going on was just going to be temporary and that I could try and live as normal a life as possible. It's not. My life is clearly changing in some way. I guess this is just my body's way of saying, stop, look after me. So I'm just dealing with the consequences, and it's quite physically and emotionally draining. Last night was not a good night for me. Most of yesterday also wasn't a very good day for me. I think with all the moving around and everything, from the previous shot when I went downtown to try and get into the gynecologist's office, which ended up being cancelled. I think all that moving around and walking around and like waiting for the Uber and all that sort of stuff and getting back and then running a few errands while I was up and out and about really didn't help me. I'm not entirely sure how or why. I'm guessing it's probably something along the lines of just being a bit too overactive one day or being a little bit too much on my feet. I'm not entirely sure. But it triggered something. It triggered a flare-up of some kind in addition to the pain that I was having. So I just had a really terrible day. Last night, I had gone to bed at a fairly reasonable time. So it was about 11:30 at night. And I had what felt like a really deep sleep. But for some reason, I ended up waking up at like 2 something in the morning and basically just paced for hours and hours and hours because the pain was just incredible. I was also waiting for the painkillers to kick in, which is where I don't really know or understand why my hips are doing what they're doing. Painkillers just aren't reaching my legs or my hips as quickly as they should. So I find that pacing at the moment helps. But people weren't wrong when they were saying that once you develop a chronic pain disorder of some type, sleep is something that you will battle with. I'm definitely battling with it right now. But I'm just kind of doing my best to try and get through the best that I can. I'm still undiagnosed, so part of me still wishes it could just be an infection of some sort and that I'll be able to just snap my fingers and have my old life back. So in the meantime, I'm noting down the symptoms and recording the meds and the pain as often as I can. Right now I'm on a couple of meds for a short-term period. So I'm recording my experiences during that time, which will be about 10 days, in my red book, which you saw right at the beginning, so that I can share it with the rheumatologist once I'm able to get back and see her. It's also mostly just to record my journey because I'm super forgetful. With my pain, I wanted a creative way to record it. I know there is a pain scale, so I have been using numbers. I know of the pain scale. I grew up with medical practitioners. I worked within the medical field myself. So it's easy enough for me. But for whatever reason, if I were to give that information to my husband, he would look at the numbers and just be completely befuddled. So I wanted a creative way of being able to record my pain without having to constantly flip back to the front of the book and such and so forth to remind myself of what each number actually means. I remembered growing up, and I remembered in one of my old jobs, the patient histories that we had. There was usually a diagram of the body, which you see here. And you would just quickly circle areas to indicate where the injuries or where the pain was, so that if somebody was having a quick glance over a patient's history, you'd have a rough idea of where there's pain, where there's injuries, where you need to be gentle, etc., etc. So I printed some of those off, and as you saw, I just painted them using watercolors. Now, the reason why I used watercolors is that you can kind of layer watercolors, so you can go from the lighter shades to a darker shade. Because for me, my pain, when I think about it, when the doctors have asked me, and sort of when other people have asked me, like, what is the pain like? I can't really describe it. It's like the pain, I have like my central level of pain, and then it kind of ebbs out, I guess. It kind of fades out as it gets further away from certain parts of the body or certain parts of a particular ligament or a joint or whatever. It's like a gradual build up, and then suddenly there's nothing at like another part of my leg, if that makes sense. So I wanted to kind of highlight that. So that's why I used the watercolors to really hone in on where the pain really is excruciating with the darker tones, and then they fade out into the lighter tones where the pain is still there, but it's not as severe as, say, in the more concentrated areas. I hope that makes sense. So I understand at the moment that whatever this is, and I'm still secretly hoping that it is just going to be a temporary thing. I know that I'm not able to jump up and rush around as much as I used to. I can't just get up in the morning and go do whatever I need to do. I definitely cannot skip out on breakfast or anything like that, because a lot of my meds require that I line my stomach before I take them, which has forced me into a new routine. So it's little things like that, like changing my routine, changing my diet slightly so that I can take certain medications, being more aware of my pain, and sort of taking time, not getting too stressed out with myself, not pressuring myself to do anything over the top, as I try and modify my life to deal with this, hopefully temporary, but more likely going to be lifelong issue that I'm going to have, it's easier now to try and sort of start building good habits and ideas and good routines while I have the ability to. So, yeah, just wanted to be creative. There's no introduction. I guess this is going to be the outro. I'm still really confused and still kind of lost on what's happening. I've put my faith in the medical system at the minute that over time something will get sorted out. I'm still hopeful that it's just going to be a temporary thing. My initial thought was that this is just an infection of some kind. I might have inhaled something, maybe I've eaten something, maybe it's something that I've gotten from my dog. I don't know, like Lyme disease or something. That's what I thought it was. I was hoping that it would be something kind of minor. Obviously Lyme disease is not minor, but I thought it was going to be something more simple. Obviously now I'm not entirely sure what it's going to end up becoming if it does end up being diagnosed. But I now know that this pain that I'm feeling is connected to a lot of things that I've been dealing with for the past 3 years in particular, but also even longer. Like I said earlier in the video, I applied a lot of pressure to myself to always be there for other people, to always be at work, to do all the hours under the sun, to always be the most physical one. There's always that notion as well that if you're younger than most people, there's always that notion that, oh, you know, you're young, you can do it. When in actual fact, there were times where I knew that I couldn't do it, but I had to because there was a pressure there was a stress there that I needed to fulfill. What I mean by that is two things. There were days where I clearly wasn't well, like I was really lethargic for some reason, because I am super anemic as well. I was either really lethargic or whatever, and I just couldn't find the time to just stop and take a day off and just sleep, get some good food into myself, work out like I need to, and such and so forth. I was pretty much working every single day. There's also the anxiety side of things. I have 2 anxiety disorders, both of which are kind of annoying, but my main one, which is just generalized anxiety disorder, is mostly based on the fact that I try to live for other people. I always try and put other people before myself. That has been a very negative trait that I've had since I was a child. Being a people pleaser, being a pushover. And I guess now, other than the emotional turmoil that I've had to deal with as a result of that, you know, going out of your way to do something that someone is telling you to do, only for them to screw you over in the end, you then have to like deal with the emotional pushback of that. Now I'm dealing with the physical consequences of that. Overexerting myself when I was tired, pushing myself when I didn't need to, and not knowing when to say no, and then going into work when I really needed time off. But you know, it's life. You need to pay bills and stuff. So if it means working 13 days in a row, you work 13 days in a row. I guess that's the kind of like the physical aspect. I don't know, I guess I'm kind of just clutching at straws right now. I'm just trying to find a source or a reason for everything that's been going on in my life, and it's been really difficult at the minute. I find that there are days where I'm just laughing out of frustration because I'm terrified of the future, but I'm also really hopeful that this could be temporary. And I know that I shouldn't set myself up for something so hopeful. I should really set myself up for the negative so that I won't be disappointed when things do turn out negative for me. And I'm assuming that they will, but I'm not yet ready to acknowledge that. I don't know, I find myself just looking back and realizing there were so many warning signs that I wasn't well on multiple different levels. And I've been dealing with another pain issue for the past 3 years, like I said. And now it just seems like, even the doctors were saying it, like it seems like it's all connected. And anemia is in the background, but it's like the number one thing that we need to deal with first before we worry about all the other stuff that we're currently investigating you for. So the signs have been there, and it's been difficult. So I have been blaming myself a lot the last few days, the last couple of weeks, because I had ample time to just quit whatever I was doing so I could go get help, and I just never did, because I didn't want to let people down. I didn't want to let my work down. I didn't want to say no to anything, and now I'm paying for it, and it sucks. So that's why I laugh, because it's like, oh, it's so frustrating, because it's so simple when you look back, right? But I don't know. Like I said, I'm clutching at straws. I don't know what the reason is for any of this. It's just come on, and it's confusing me. My anxiety is just like, oh my God, you probably have this, you probably have that, you probably have this, that, and the other. And in order to make myself feel less crazy, I have, I guess, taken on the notion of this is just temporary, this is just an infection, this is just gonna go away. They're just gonna give me some antibiotics. My blood levels are gonna go up, because like once a month I'm gonna have to go into hospital to have iron pumped into me so that my hemoglobin levels can go back up. That will take about 3 months. So like 3 to 6 months from now, everything will be good. Like it'll just be really cold. And with new iron and new blood in my body, my body temperature will raise up. So I should be able to survive winter a little bit better this time around. And that everything will be fine. Like there won't be any problems. And when I look back, this will just be a blip in my life's journey. At the moment, I'm just trying to be in the present. I know that my body just hurts all the time. There are a few hours in the day where I don't feel any pain whatsoever, or at least I've trained myself to just not acknowledge anything that's less than a 3 on the pain scale. Because I have pretty intense pain. Like sitting here right now is really, really painful. My legs are shaking, my arms are shaking because I'm putting so much pressure on my knees and my ankles and my heels to keep my legs and my arms up. And there's a lot of pressure in my arms and shoulders. And then I'm just consistently getting pain here. It's just a constant throbbing, just constant, just consistent. Just doesn't, there's no break, there's no waves or anything. It's just consistently there. But again, it's like pain scale, it's like a 2, so I'm just kind of ignoring it. But again, I should try maybe not to do that, because ignoring the issues that I have had over the years so far has obviously culminated in whatever this particular potential diagnosis is. And then it just brings me all the way back to, what is it? Am I blaming myself? Should I blame myself? What is happening? Why is everything changing so much? And why do I not know how to prepare for these changes? And then I just get anxious, and then I start researching, and I fall into a rabbit hole of negativity, and it's just the same vicious cycle over and over and over again. So, I don't know. I'm recording this as just something that I need to be able to look back on as time goes by. And I guess to just kind of vent and just kind of share what's been happening. Because I'm in Canada and I love being here, but I'm here on my own. I'm married to a Canadian, which is great. And he's been helping me out hugely over the last couple of weeks. Like, he helps me in ways that I didn't think I'd ever need at this age. He has to like help me put my trousers on and like my socks, because I can't bend down. I can't bend down. I can't even sit on a sofa and put my socks on because it hurts so much. I've had to take my rings off because I've been having like these like 24-hour flare-ups like every other day. And my hands just swell to the point where the ring will just get stuck on my hand. So we originally got married and had Enso rings
2 of mine broke and it's a lifetime warranty, but I don't know where they are. and they're also the wrong size, because when I got them I thought it was the right size. They were like a size too big. So I don't think I'm going to be replacing those anytime soon. I probably will at some point in the future and maybe try and fit them onto different fingers. But I'm looking at Enso rings again, in order to just get some new wedding rings, because I feel so naked without my rings. Like, if I don't have my rings on both hands, I feel unaccomplished. So it's been a weird couple or so weeks. Everything's been happening really quickly, which is nice. I'm still waiting on a few more appointments to come through. And at some point, once I'm finished dealing with this other issue that I'm going through right now, I should be able to go back to work, and I can start trialing what a day at work will be like for myself. I've always had like very physical jobs since the age of 12. I've never had like an office job or anything, which I long for. I've always had very physically demanding jobs. And I'm guessing, you know, back when I hurt my back a couple of times, like 15 years ago at work, maybe that was the start of everything. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure things out. So, I don't know. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I don't know what the future holds. So, I'm just gonna go with the flow. Thank you for watching.